Little John?
Big John?
Little John?
Big John?
Little John? Backyard is clear.
Big John, ritual chamber's clear.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ritual Chamber. I'm Josh, this is Jeff, and today we're going to be reviewing Halloween Kills.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and get into it, but first off, I guess we'll give a general breakdown of how we feel about horror movies in general.
Mainly because I want to know how you feel about horror.
So I love horror movies. I'm not a huge fan of gore horror movies, but I love horror movies in general. I love the concept of, just getting scared. I do like some of the paranormal ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of makes you think a little bit. But I think that when you go see horror movies, there's always an element of surprise that makes them very fun to watch, especially when you're watching them in a theater. There's no better environment, I feel like, than to watch a horror movie in a packed theater. To hear other people's reactions. Sometimes could be different, but overall, I mean, horror is up there in one of my favorite genres. So it's definitely something I love covering. Again, it just depends on the horror movie.
Yeah. And you know me, horror is my jam. Like, horror is my bread and butter.
Yes.
That's what kind of the only thing I would disagree seeing a horror movie in a theater is, that's what the Ritual Chamber is for. It's for me to watch horror movies. So it's literally the only place I can go to actually watch horror movies. So that's what it's for. So this is my favorite place to watch horror movies.
And we've seen some shitty ones in here.
We've seen,
in my opinion,
we've only seen amazing ones, and like if you ever notice, if you ever see me switch my shoulder and you see the reflection back here behind me, that's a horror movie because I'm forcing Josh to watch something fucked up or messed up, because I want to see the reaction on his face because he has to actually look at the TV.
Yes,
I can't see it.
It is in
because I have to look at him.
It is in my line of sight, so absolutely.
But so going into Halloween. It's a franchise that's always never really stuck with me.
Really?
Because the big thing for me in horror, and it's a problem in a lot of horror, even as much as I love horror, I am much more of a gore hound.
Yes.
You know, I like the.
Yes.
I want to see the kills. I want to see blood. Paranormal stuff, unless it's like found footage, especially like the old Paranormal Activity movies, slashers. Like I love blood and gore, and I'm a huge gore hound. So you kind of got to dig it a little deep and kind of go a little bit more on the indie side for the gore I like. The Halloween franchise, in and of itself, is never really been my thing. Only because, like, when it comes to the hierarchy of like the classic, the classic slasher monsters from the 80s that we grew up with, it's definitely like Michael's like number 4 on that list.
Wow, Michael was number 1 on mine.
Yeah, no, for me it's definitely Freddy. Well, actually no, it's Pinhead, Freddy, Jason, Michael, and then Leatherface.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
And
sorry,
Leatherface. A lot of my reasoning is just because even though I grew up in that time and I did watch a lot of those movies as very young. I watched them very young. My dad was a horror fan, and he introduced me to horror at a very, very young age, which I think is fine.
Absolutely.
Totally fine.
Yeah, you turned out perfectly normal.
Yeah. Once you explain to a kid it's a mask, it's someone in a mask, like it's totally fine. And that's like corn syrup or whatever. It's fine. But the reason is because those ones especially Halloween and Texas Chainsaw, because they were made in the 70s and a very like kind of independent film budget, which all of them were initially independent films. Starting out. There's just a level of filmmaking that isn't quite there. It's sort of like a film made with this camera.
Okay.
And that's always sort of bothered me as a cinephile and a sort of a film geek. It's not bothered me, but it's just the filmmaking and the storytelling is very slow paced and very. Movies are a lot longer than they really need to be. I mean, even like back in the 60s, the average like blockbuster movie was way longer than it ever needed to be.
Yeah.
But some of it drags on a lot. With the Halloween franchise specifically, though, this is the 4th reboot.
Yes, it has had a lot of reboots, and I agree with you in that sense that, like, Halloween has as a franchise has had a lot of missteps.
Yeah.
Especially
Well,
Halloween 3, huge misstep.
Even Halloween 2. No, you're right.
Halloween 3
was not a misstep. It's a great movie. It just once you had 2 movies that were
but there's no Michael Myers.
But again, we'll go into that. But yeah, but I'm a big continuity fan. Like when it comes to horror, because a lot of these movies, a lot of the horror movies, they did not follow continuity. There's sort of a continuity in some, but it's like, and to my point with the Halloween franchise. They just took out Michael Myers. They thought it would just be only because John Carpenter didn't want to be involved.
Yeah.
That's literally the only reason they did that. And they figured they could just make it an anthology type series. And then they brought Michael back, and so the continuity is just all over the place. I mean, and so something I'm going to talk about when we actually get into Halloween Kills. This again is the 3rd reboot. This is the second third C-boot, 4th reboot.
Yes.
So copyright still pending.
Lot of words in there too.
Copyright still pending on C-boot.
But so let's get into Halloween Kills.
Let's go.
And so the thing is, as you said, this is essentially, if we really think about it, the 3rd movie.
What? Yes.
So this is Halloween 3 essentially,
Correct.
right? If we're going off of this timeline for the past 2 Halloween movies.
Which really bothered me in the first one, and I'll talk about that.
But so coming into this movie, I was really excited because I did think that the last Halloween was done really well. I liked the way that it played off of the first movie, essentially, and kind of redirected the story. I liked the direction where they went with the story, and I thought that this was a fresh take on a franchise that really needed a fresh take. It needed something different, and to go back to the first movie and then kind of restart from there, I thought was good for the franchise. Michael Myers, in my opinion, is my favorite of those slashers.
I still look. I put him 4th, but he's still my favorite. I'm sorry. I have to redo that. It's 5th because Jigsaw is number 2.
But
sorry.
As you were talking about, low budget and things like that. That's why I think made Halloween so good was the fact that it was low budget, so they really had to focus on how you're going to get those scares in.
What's what made all of those
and that's what I think was unique about it. That's what attracted me to it. The jump scares
and I see that,
the cinematography. It is budgety for sure, but I feel that they really did it well.
It's definitely that's an appeal for all the old horror movies that we grew up with. I mean that's why I still love horror. I mean it's not flashy. It is sometimes, but it's not like there's a charm to it that you can't repeat. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, the closest is like the Scream franchise, which is great, but it's just like the charm is shut up. Don't get us on a tangent. But the charm of just that simple low budget filmmaking. Even New Line Cinemas, which went on to make Lord of the Rings, it's called the house that Freddy built for a reason. Because it was independent filmmaking at its finest, and they just figured out how to do what they needed to do to make film the best.
Absolutely.
And there's a charm to that.
So with Halloween Kills, unfortunately for me, this movie fell really flat.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm going to be honest, I was not a huge fan of it. In my opinion, this movie and the one that
give a quick summation and then
that preceded it, they felt like they were 2 separate stories, and I don't really feel like the overall feel of the movie followed the one that preceded it.
Oh wow! I wildly disagree.
And this one, to me, there was a lot of campiness in it. I think what they do well in this movie, which I did like, was how they kind of handled the gore, giving this sense of what's happening, but you're not actually seeing it unfold. I like that because there's enough to the element of what's going on, but you're not seeing like someone's skull get split open. And
you're not
things like that. You know what I mean?
The more implied.
Yes,
violence.
Exactly. And so I liked that. But again, for this movie, for me, a little bit too campy. I think they went into this direction of, they tried to get too deep into like society and the way society handles
Oh,
things.
man.
There was this big concept of evil dies tonight, which was kind of like, I guess if I would call it the slogan of the movie.
It was actually.
Literally.
It was.
It was just, you know, this town hall meeting in a hospital, and the town, evil dies tonight, we're gonna get Michael.
Save it a little bit, but yeah,
and
sure.
like, to me, some really cheesy moments. But what I did enjoy about this movie was the scares. Felt very traditional to the original Halloween. I loved the concept of that. I loved the the way that they portrayed Michael being the stalker kind of killer that he is. The scene where the kids are on the swings and they're talking about this guy coming out behind the tree just looking at them, and then he appears. Great callback to the classic, just really well done. But overall, again, for me, just not my favorite. This movie just didn't land for me.
Man, that's surprising me, because literally damn near everything you said, I feel the exact opposite about. Usually you and I are on the same thing. Well, no, because here's this is going to turn into like a mini review of the 2018 version as well. Mini, I'll try to keep it. The thing I didn't really like about the 2018 C-boot, sorry, patent pending, or copyright pending, whatever it is. I don't know which governmental office I sent it to. It's just
we'll have to go to the city of Costa Mesa.
Yeah.
Just so you know where we're operating out of.
Yeah.
Orange County.
But
metro area.
My biggest problem with the 2018 reboot, it was the idea that, look, I get PTSD as a motherfucker, but it's been 40 years, and you can't just think like this guy's gonna come for you because he came for you one night. That it was sort of a problem I have with the series in general. It erased the sequel, so it made Michael Myers less of like an actual looming threat. It was like this weird sense of like, because the audience knows that he's a killer, and because he's killed through 20 other movies, or however many, it was like 8.
Yeah.
He's obviously coming back for Laurie. Well, in the universe of the film, it doesn't make any sense. I understand PTSD; it sucks, but after 40 years, and it just did not jive with me. However, what I will say about Halloween Kills, I like the idea that you kind of got the sense that it was taking place sort of in tandem with the first one, and then continuing on to it, because otherwise it's the longest night ever.
Yeah, clearly,
you know
right?
What I mean?
Yeah.
When the scene of
when did Halloween turn into 30 Days a Night?
I know. Like the scene of Tommy and the other survivors in the bar, which I actually thought was a really cool thing to introduce, is that these survivors still get together. Although kind of weird that Tommy and Rachel, was her name, or Lauren or something, were little kids, but they're hanging out with Loomis's like nurse assistant.
Yeah.
So they're like, fucking 40 years apart in age, but they're hanging out at a bar on Halloween, but still also dealing with PTSD, and still talking about this one night that happened to them 40 years ago, which, again, a kind of another annoyance I had with the movie. I know I started this out saying, like, I actually really loved it, but another annoyance I had with the movie was the fact, the dialogue was sort of not great at times.
The dialogue was very not great.
And one of the biggest tellers of that was constantly pointing out that none of the other movies happened. 40 years ago, this happened. 40 years ago, this happened. They kept hammering on that. And so much with Tommy's speech at the bar, even when he goes back to the hospital. However, I'm going to disagree with you on the social commentary of like how we deal with mental health in this country. Like people deal, especially in a small town like in Illinois. Like they're not gonna. The way that scene goes out. Spoilers, obviously. You also have to imagine that, like, because these movies take in tandem, they've been at that bar for a while. They're all a little drunk. Like, or maybe a lot drunk.
Look, if you live in Haddonfield, you're drunk anyway.
Yeah. And they go to that hospital, and they're just drunkenly, they're a drunken mob. And, to basically, like, torture this insane guy. Yeah. Who's, like, not, and it turns into a whole thing, and it's sort of a little bit more of the movie, but I don't know. Actually, I kind of like that little bit of social commentary, even though it does take up a bit of a chunk of the movie. But that being said, going back to Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, the biggest thing that bothered me in the C boot, and I was really hoping they'd bring it back in this one, is the fact that Laurie is his sister, his baby sister, which was introduced in the original part 2.
Yes, it
and
was.
and has been a franchise staple since
absolutely.
day one. Even though H2O is also another reboot, H2O really wipes out 4, 5, 6.
6, yeah.
Like Laurie Strode's his sister. Like that's what it should be, and I was really hoping they'd go that route again. Because it would be the only thing that really makes sense. Like there was actually talking to the PTSD. Like there was an actual chemical, biological thing, like why she was still so afraid.
Yeah.
Because she just, again, some sort of biological, just knew that was her brother, and he was coming back for her to finish.
Yeah, but see, and this is where I actually liked the direction that they took in this movie, was that she isn't related to him, because at the end of the movie, basically you get this idea that Michael is out for Laurie. But he's not. He's
well,
out
actually,
to
they explain in this one that he wasn't.
He's going back to,
which I did like. I did that
and
bit of dialogue.
And he was trying to just return back to his house.
Yeah, I did like that.
To stare out the window to maybe see himself and see whatever
Halloween ends decides to
exactly. We'll have to wait for the reveal of what he's
for the
reveal of Halloween ends. But I did like that they didn't do that, because then what made this interesting, in my opinion, was the fact that everybody kind of had a say into why he was still there, why he was still plaguing the city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I thought that was unique, because it's not identifiable as to why he's killing all these people, as to why he's a murderer.
Yeah.
It doesn't put him into a singular track as to where this is. Anybody in his way, on the way to Laurie, gets aced. He was kind of just doing his own thing because he's just a murderer.
And that was sort of the thing I really liked was his quick line of dialogue, which is good. That he wasn't going for Laurie.
Exactly.
It was the doctor who took them that way. I was just so hoping that Laurie's his sister, because again, it would explain more why she's so terrified, or why, there's again a biological thing and definitely a weird biological connection. But then
totally understand
and especially when I rewatched the first one, the 2018 C boot, the doctor, before he gets killed, he asks, the daughter says that he spoke to her, and he hasn't spoken in however many years, 40 years, and the doctor asks, did he say her name? Did he say his sister's name? And I was like, they're gonna bring that back in, because it just makes more sense.
Okay.
It's always made more sense that way. Again, just this older woman who that went on to have a husband, a family, and just be paranoid. I get being a bit of a doomsday prepper in a way.
Yeah.
But specifically this guy's coming back. This guy that hasn't come back in 40. That's the one thing that sort of bothers me. However, that being said, I will say this is a perfect sequel. It's a perfect sequel. In the sense, like I was saying, you kind of get the idea that a lot of it is taking place in tandem with the other movie, the scene in the bar where Tommy.
They clearly do a lot of referencing that in the cinematography,
and also
with the cutback
the way
scenes
they
and
did
things like that.
The way they did the referencing to the original Halloween, and how Michael ended up getting caught in the end.
Yeah.
In the end of that night. That was really, really cool, because you actually got to even in the original part 2, he's shot and then disappears and then shows up in the hospital.
Yeah.
In the first part 2, which is kind of weird, it's kind of a good juxtaposition that they did part 2 in mainly a hospital, whereas part 2, the original part 2, actually took place in a hospital.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool juxtaposition, but you didn't get the exact same movie.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of the guilt of the cop who could have killed Michael.
Yeah.
Or could have.
As far as he knows, could have.
But he stopped Loomis from killing him.
Yes.
And as far as he knows.
And see, to me though, that's something that
And real quick, and I'm just going to say this quick. Damn near the best freaking CGI dead person, Loomis.
Oh
Donald Pleasance?
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I agree.
mean,
Yeah, I didn't.
And
Think
I think
about
that's the trick. Just keep them in the dark.
Yeah.
Darken up the lines.
Yeah. Not too much.
Yeah, not too much. Don't show. Like not General Tarkin. You're not showing him bright ass light.
Yeah. He's got the ring light on. No, and see, but to me though, that's one thing that I kind of where this movie fell flat for me, because so you get Michael obviously escaping from the end of the second movie, as we'll call it, the second movie, out of this house, and in the as they recall it, he's surrounded by the cops and he just gives himself up. But clearly he can take them all out, because that was a thing that he did with the firefighters, and then that's a thing that he did with the town. So what was his reasoning for just submitting in this scenario?
True, yeah.
It's
a good point. That's a very good point.
It's like, why in this case is he okay with submitting to it, and then in these other instances he's not?
Yeah.
And then he kind of turns out to be this like, which I mean he's a badass anyway. Obviously, we assume that because of the amount of times he's been shot in the face, burned alive, whatever. Shot in general.
None of that matters.
Yes, and then he goes out and he takes out the team of firefighters, and then at the end of the movie, spoilers, he takes out the rest of the town that's coming after him.
Well, he takes out the rest of the mob.
Yeah, the mob.
Yeah, he doesn't take out the entire town.
Not the entire town, but yes, the mob of the town. But so to me, again, I wish there was a better explanation as to why at this point he was willing to submit in these other scenarios where he was clearly not. What's the motivation there? And I hope it's something that they answer in Halloween Ends.
And they did sort of explain it a little bit in that sort of exchange between Laurie and the cop.
Fucking dialogue that is just terrible. Like, I'm gonna throw this out there.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair to that speech. It is two people who literally, like, one is dealing with being drugged from like being shot in the neck. The other one's drugged from having her stomach split open. So they're not completely talking sense.
Yeah, well, okay, but I'm just gonna throw this out there too, though. In that sense, you think one of them is just gonna get up and have this really like in-depth dialogue about, like, I mean, it was.
Was it in-depth?
It was so corny and just out of place. Like,
it was a little corny, but I was okay with it.
She's talking over him as he's just ripping apart the mob, and he's pure evil, and I mean, again, that really fell flat for me. I just thought it was just unnecessary to the movie. But we will have to see where they tie it up.
Like I said, my biggest critique is a lot of the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It mainly just because it's they really like tried to hammer home that everybody's dealing with some PTSD or guilt or whatever from 40 years ago, and they kept like bringing that up, and it's like got really annoying.
Well, that was like a theme of the movie was kind of like I felt like it was like internal exploration. Yeah. And how you deal with, grief or, mistakes,
which is a
or
cool thing
whatever.
to do in a horror movie. I mean, I appreciate when a horror movie tries to do that.
No, absolutely. It was very unique in that concept, but I just don't think it was done properly.
No,
for me, it didn't.
No,
feel
and you're not completely wrong, but again, I'm a gore hound. What I like, I mean, why I said this was like probably a perfect sequel. You had a giant body count.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Michael kills a lot of motherfuckers.
He took out 2 mobs, and then a bunch of people along the way.
So I really like the callbacks to 3 with the masks and the kids wearing those masks and then Michael putting them on them, which is really cool because everybody hates that fucking movie.
Yeah,
it's actually a really good movie. It just shouldn't have been. I mean, it should have just been called Season of the Witch. It's a whole other thing. But let's talk about Michael in general.
So, what I really liked in this movie was the Shape. As they call him in every movie.
But he's always,
I don't know the actor who played the Shape in this movie.
Yeah.
Apologies. But if you guys want to check it out, let us know. We just
He's
weren't
always been-
paying,
he's always
we
been-
weren't
he's always
paying
been-
attention to that during the credits.
I feel like I know exactly who it is. Like I know in the Rob Zombie remake it was Tyler Mane only because he was Sabretooth.
Sabretooth, yeah. But I think his mannerisms were really good. And I think it was very akin to the original movies. I really liked his like stiffness and the way that he moved. One of my favorite scenes in this movie, in regards to kind of a callback to the original movie, was when the first couple that he encounters, when he has them on the island in the kitchen and he's testing out the knives and he's just thrusting them into him. And, again, his mannerisms are very similar to the original Michael that we've seen. So I really enjoyed that, and I just think that overall the portrayal of Michael felt, as it should be.
Actually, fun fact.
It's great.
Fun fact: the actual original person who played Michael was actually a woman.
Oh, no shit.
In the first shot, I might be wrong on that, but I know a woman played Michael in a shot. Yeah, I mean, other than that, like really, I'm a gore hound. I love gore and I love body counts and people just getting fucking murked. And the best death in this entire movie is the girl getting shot with the gun, just because Michael's killing two people in a car, and all he does is kicks out the door, and this woman's like firing a Magnum or like a Desert Eagle, and just bang.
And that
was one of those parts where like, yeah, that's good to see in the theater.
Because the theater reaction was great.
Everybody in the theater went, whoa!
Yeah.
Even though he literally just was destroying some chick, Loomis's nurse, and then stabbed the one guy in the eye, and then this chick's firing at him, and no, straight to the brain.
And can we reference the fact though that one thing that I thought was funny in this movie was, for some reason it was like everybody was a stormtrooper.
Yeah, everyone came from the stormtrooper school of shooting.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were all part of I guess we wouldn't say the first order in this case, but like the accuracy was way off, and you can even relate this to the scene where, the cop that's sharing the hospital beds with Lori. I can't think of his character name, but it goes back to his cut scene where Michael has his partner.
His cut scene, was it a video game? Just kidding, just go ahead.
Well, it's a cut scene, right? It cuts away from the actual plot of the movie. Sure. Well, I guess it drives the plot. But
we'll call it a flashback.
Whatever. Flashback, there you go. But, he shoots his partner again. It's like everybody's accuracy was completely fucking off. I don't know where that came from.
But the biggest part is when he's like aiming down the stairs and Michael's head's right there. And he misses. Like Michael's walking, he's like only 5 steps down. And he's still he shoots over the banister, still misses. I don't know. I don't understand.
And it's not like he was fleeing. He's just walking.
You know what I mean?
Walking.
Just be in the shape and walking.
And before we finished, how Michael was portrayed, I did love the aspect of how they made him again this stalking character. They had the kids on the swing during that scene, and they were talking about, oh yeah, there's this creepy guy out from the trees just looking at us like we think he's a pervert, and then he shows up, and it's just very akin to the original. I love how they did that. It was refreshing to see that.
It was good. Portrayal. It was good given the shape. Again,
yes,
that
exactly
from the first one, and that that he's just could be standing behind a tree and just watching you.
Yeah.
Another funny thing I wanted to talk about was, and not really talk about because this is a horror movie. Character development's not really a big thing, so we don't need to talk about characters. However, I just love
than Michael.
I just love that Judy Greer's name was Karen, and just being a total Karen.
Absolutely.
In the hospital, my mother's been stabbed. She should be in her own room. Shit like that. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And then the other one, my favorite fucking part of the movie, my absolute favorite part of the movie, Big John, Little John.
It's great. I mean, it was great to see Stewart from Mad TV.
Yeah, and the Big John was, I've only seen him in How I Met Your Mother. He was like the sports anchor that dated Robin for like a minute. Mm-hmm. And then he played Adam in Lucifer, which was amazing. He was amazing in Lucifer. But it's the only 2 things I've ever seen him in. But that exchange, we talked about it. It was like the build up, the fact that the call and response.
Yes.
Of like Big John, Little John, Big John, Little John, and it goes on forever. Like it's not even just a short scene in the movie; it's like several scenes in the movie that like kind of cut back to them. This couple living in Michael Myers' old house, but that's where the dread comes in because you keep hearing this call and response to Big John, Little John, Big John, Little John. Then finally, when one of the Johns, I can't remember who died first. I can't remember who died first. I can't remember who died first. But one doesn't respond, and he's dead, clearly.
Yeah, and you know, I think that with this movie, there was a lot of campiness that was unnecessary, but this scene in particular, like that scenes. Overall, or scenes, if you would like, felt
character
very
arc.
Yes, it felt very warranted in this, and I think,
I loved it. It was my favorite thing. Like I went over to you. I'm like, this is how we're starting the video.
and I think that it's very akin to the slasher movies that we grew up with.
Yeah.
Obviously, of the genre does have those.
There's always errant comedy.
Yeah, and this one stuck, and it was warranted. It was great.
Like by the fourth time it happened, I laughed my ass off. I loved it so much. I just thought it was fucking great that like this gay couple is living in this house and they call each other Big John, Little John. It was just amazing.
The timing for it in the place of the movie was perfect. So we'll go ahead and get into our 12 monkeys. I'm gonna go ahead and give Halloween Kills a 7 out of 12.
Solid ranking.
This movie wasn't perfect. There were a lot of missteps in my opinion, but for the most part, the portrayal of Michael Myers was great. I loved it. Obviously, the scene with Big John and Little John was great. And I just think that what I think horror's really been missing out on is the scare factor that we're used to, that we grew up with. And I felt like this kind of tried to reintroduce that, and it was done well, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy seeing movies that have that nostalgic feel of scare factor that I enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah.
So for me, this, again, not perfect, 7 out of 12. I can't wait to see where they go with Halloween Ends.
Definitely, yeah, me too. I'm gonna give it a 9, a little bit higher score. It's like a solid, like a B- maybe for me. Mm-hmm. Dialogue was a problem. It was very like chintzy and cheesy. I hated the fact he kept referencing, it's been 40 years. That really bothered me. It really got on my nerves. It was a big problem I had in the last one. Again,
hey, time is not relevant.
Call back to earlier episodes. But I still don't like that it wasn't revealed that Laurie was his sister. I still don't like that. It just makes more sense to me. Mm-hmm. It makes more sense in any storytelling. Like PTSD sucks, but whatever. However, it had everything I look for in a horror movie. It was a perfect sequel. It continued the story of the last one just perfectly, so much so that a lot of it you can tell took place during the last movie. So you're kind of getting where a sequel like sort of begins and ends is sort of like where it's sort of a gray area, and I really like that. I like that for continuity standpoint, and because I really like if you're gonna have a sequel, have some kind of continuity.
It was like episodic. Almost.
Yeah, episodic. Mm-hmm. And kills just. I mean, man, he kills a lot of people in this movie, and I love that. Like, I mean, in my horror movies, I don't want 5 deaths. I want or 2. So I don't like the ghost movies where like one person dies at the end, and it's like kind of boring until then. But yeah, that's a solid 9 out of 12.
Yeah,
so it was a B-.
Yeah, not a bad movie. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I think it was pretty refreshing that we got to get outside of the MCU or anything comic book related. So, we love doing these videos. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you guys want to let us know who the actor of The Shape was, we can also IMDb it, but it would be much more entertaining if you guys let us know who it was. And also just let us know about your overall thoughts of the movie. So other than that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.
Yep. Bye.